Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Derek Young here on a Thursday, ready to preview K-State and Oklahoma State coming up this weekend from Boone Pickens Stadium down in Stillwater, which has not treated K-State kindly really in this millennium. 2017 was nice, but not a lot good has happened since then. All the games played there since then have been Chris Kleiman games, and the team has had struggles for one reason or the other. It hasn't mattered if you've had the quarterback you wanted going into that game or a quarterback you didn't want. And you can go back prior to the 2017 game. Obviously, 2015 ended with some heartbreak. 2011 ended with some heartbreak. So it's just been it's been a tricky place for K-State for whatever reason, which is odd because I've never been there and gone, oh, this is a really intimidating and tough environment. It's no different to me than, a lot of the other top half venues in the Big 12. Like it's fine, but I don't know. This might sound disrespectful, maybe to both parties involved here, but like I thought the environment in 2023 at KU was more intimidating than anything I've experienced the 3 times that I've witnessed K-State and Stillwater.
Intimidating is probably not the word that I would use to describe the atmosphere at Boone Pickens Stadium in Stillwater.
Annoying as hell.
I would say, yeah, a little bit of that. I would say a little bit of imposing, though, is maybe a word I would go. And I know those are pretty close together, but it's I wouldn't say it's intimidating. It's almost uncomfortable because you are really shipped in there tight.
It's a different vibe for the players than a lot of the places you play where, it's a legitimate bowl. So it just goes straight. So it feels big and wide in there. And everything there is meant to, it's a lot like, some people, a lot of you have probably had a better chance of being at Boone Pickens Stadium than you have what I'm about to say. But, Globe Life Park in Arlington, the old Rangers Stadium, it's a lot like that to me, where it was built and designed to look even bigger and grander than it actually is. And so that plays into it. You're right. Like those sidelines are tight. The walls are right there. The fans are banging the paddles and all of that. So I think, imposing is the right word for it.
And you talked about like the heartbreaks, and I wasn't around for them. I think the years you pointed out were 2015 and 2011. Everyone remembers winning and being up by a lot in 2017. What they tend to forget is that damn near was a heartbreak too.
Yeah, it got really uncomfortable there.
Yeah, that Oklahoma State felt like, did they score like 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter? Certainly felt like it.
They scored a lot. Let me pull that one up because it was a crazy game. So that was my sophomore year at K-State, and I was actually in the state of Oklahoma that day, but my family, we were going on like a little Thanksgiving trip to go into Oklahoma City. So we were on the other part of the state, but listening and watching, and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah. O State outscored K-State 20-3 in the fourth quarter of that game.
I knew it was something because everyone thinks because they remember, and they're very correct, that Kansas State just built a monster lead. The final score, Kansas State only won by 5.
Yeah, and it was an 18-point game with less than 6 minutes to go, and then Oklahoma State was able to tighten it up a little bit. So, yeah, not great. I mean,
the biggest lead was at 35-13, maybe the biggest lead, I want to say.
Biggest lead in the game.
42-13 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it felt like it was over, and then it got a little dicey and uncomfortable there at the end for K-State.
In the last, what was their score? 4 minutes there, so 5 and 11. In the last 16, and there was a 16-minute time frame there where Oklahoma State outscored Kansas State 27-3 in about 15 minutes of football.
You want some insanity from looking back through that box score right now is that the amount of guys that played in that game for Oklahoma State that are still in the NFL, Mason Rudolph, Justice Hill, James Washington, and then you can go and Trey Flowers was on that team.
Tylan Wallace.
Yeah, like you got a lot of guys that were playing there that were good, and then like this is crazy to think of just how expansive this thing gets, and how things ended up working out. Malcolm Rodriguez was a freshman on that team at Oklahoma State, played in the game, had a tackle in it, and he didn't leave college until 2021. Like it just kind of crazy to conceive. I think it's maybe the COVID thing makes it feel like we lived a
Yeah.
whole other life since that game, but pretty expansive with how it worked out.
Skylar Thompson had more carries than pass attempts. He had 17 carries. It's crazy that he only completed 10 passes for 204 yards. I mean, you're talking, what, 20 yards of completion there?
Let's see. He had, yeah. I mean, 20 point whatever. So he did that. He ran for 93. Alex Barnes ran for 86. And then obviously Byron Pringle was the real
Just
story in that game.
Yeah, just Byron Pringle for 4 catches, 3 of them went for scores, 166 yards. I
And
know
he
that.
returned a punt for a touchdown.
Oh, he did. I didn't even remember that,
Yeah,
to
so
be
he
quite
had
honest.
4. So just for reference here, the last however many trips to Stillwater for K-State, they lost 29-21 in 2023. That was the Will Howard interception after interception game. K-State
And,
still had a chance at the end,
and
multiple chances,
then
down one score.
that was that was a Friday night game,
Mhm.
and he barked at me in the post game press conference when I was just asking for immediate thoughts, and he didn't like that.
I think he thought you said media thoughts, and he's like, what does this have to do with this?" Then the 31-20 loss for K-State in 2021, that was the Jaron Lewis game, where Will Howard got hurt early in it, and they had to go to Jaron Lewis because Skylar was already down, and that went how you'd expect. 2019, 26-13. That was the first time that so that was Kleiman's first loss at K-State after starting 3-0. And that was when people got introduced to the fact that Chris Kleiman is not immune to taking some odd decisions that don't really feel conducive to winning a game. And I think he's been more aggressive and better about it lately. But that's where people first had some serious issues with his game management. The game in 2017, K-State won. 2015, the 2-point loss with Cody Cook playing quarterback until he got knocked out. Joe Huebner comes back in after, I think, very clearly being concussed. Drew and I looked back at that during the Mount Rushmores this year. 2013, K-State lost by 4. 2011, K-State lost by a touchdown, but had a goal to go in the final moments of the game with Colin Klein. And then their previous trip before that was 2007, where they lost by 2 with Josh Freeman at quarterback. They lost by 4 in 2003. So K-State has not had a comfortable game in Stillwater or one that's like not been heartbreaking since 1999 when they blasted O State 44-21. But since that point, only one win for K-State, and every loss that they've had down there has had their oddities, and certainly pre-Kleiman, like you just knew you were going to get your heart ripped out there. So maybe a little bit different for this K-State team this week. 19.5-point favorites against O State, 11 a.m. this Saturday.
Yeah, something that we talked about, I think, when these two teams played. They play last year in Manhattan? I believe so.
Yes, that was the game after BYU and K-State kind of kicked their tail.
Yeah, something that we even said before that game, and then and got introduced to it once again, is that it's not just Kansas State struggling in Stillwater. Oklahoma State has no luck in Manhattan either. It's a series where the home team has a very decided advantage for one reason or another. And while Kansas State's losses in Stillwater tend to be like heartbreak, Oklahoma State goes to Manhattan and they just lay an egg every time.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the history on that, last year K-State won by 22. 2022, everybody remembers 48-0. Oklahoma State did steal a win in 2020, but
COVID year where Will Howard gave him the
yeah,
ball. Yep.
but 31-12. That was kind of a weird stretch. K-State played O State and Texas both really well. They beat O State, couldn't come back against Texas. And then 2016, K-State was driving towards the end of the game with Jesse Ertz, but ultimately lost by 6. But yeah, outside of that, there's been over the last decade plus, when these teams get together, the home team typically wins, and there's a decided fashion that it comes in based off of how things have been playing out. So in this game, Oklahoma State's a terrible team. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, DY. And I feel better about saying this now because before the 2023 game, I went on with the folks at KSNT for their K Nation show after, and I remember telling Glenn Kinley and Laney Gerber that Oklahoma State was terrible. I don't think highly of them, all this other stuff. Just, ripping them to shreds because they look like dog crap.
And then they went to the Big 12 title there.
Well, yeah, and Laney Gerber, an Oklahoma State alum, and at the time, nobody was putting up a fight on what I said. And then K-State goes down and loses, and that's what springboarded Oklahoma State because they decided, hey, this Ollie Gordon guy is pretty good. They rode him and ended up making it to the Big 12 title game. We're a little later into the season now, though, and I don't anticipate that happening for a team that – let me throw some numbers at you here, DY. Oklahoma State on defense. They're allowing 48% of opponent third downs to be picked up. That's worst in the league. 75% of fourth downs to be picked up. That's worst in the league. 36.8 points per game allowed. That's worst in the league. Bottom three run defense, 170 a game in the league, 274 yards passing. That's the worst. They only have 3 picks this season. On the offensive side of the ball, dead last in scoring, just over 15 points a game. Third worst in rushing, worst in passing, 12th on third downs, worst on fourth downs, worst in the red zone. This team is not very good. And Zane Flores, believe it or not, I learned this last night, courtesy of Mitch Fortner. It's pronounced Flores, not Flores. Who knew that?
I shouldn't say that. No, I was going to say that's stupid, but it's a guy's name.
A guy's name. But you put Flores in front of me. That's always been Flores in my life.
And the first name was typically Jesus, though. So
he has not been mobile. He doesn't run a lot. He's played, limited time at moments this year. And of the 16 sacks that those State's allowed, he's been 11 of them. And again, he's not played a good chunk of the season. So this team is not good. There's nothing that should be threatening about them. But with that said, this has been a season where you can't predict a lot about what K-State is going to do. And now they are a little bit more banged up than what they had been prior because now you lose Austin Romaine on defense. We heard today from Matt Wells that on offense, it's like, okay, we need Adonis Moyes and Lincoln Cure to step up since Jerron Bradley's out. Like in the run game's never been there for the running backs this year. So there's at least some uneasiness that's going to come into this because of who K-State has been this year and certainly the long history that we discussed to start the show.
Yeah, I'm going to probably try to be careful with my words because I've kind of bit off more than I can chew this week, apparently. I've been hammered by fan after fan for being too soft on this team and being too sympathetic for them. And now starting, I think last night, now I'm getting ridiculed for being too hard on them in the last 24 hours and acting like they can't do anything and being too negative. So I haven't really been able to hit that middle this week. What I would say is I think it is fair to call out that at this point in the season, this team is battered and bruised, and they are a shell of the team from a health standpoint and who they have to count on that we anticipated them having this year. Yes, every team goes through injuries. Kansas State and Iowa State are probably having to both shoulder an excessive amount compared to the norm. Is that a fluke or a coincidence? It could be. If you want to think about it, when you decide to play in week 0, you get 3 bye weeks, but you're still playing football for a little bit longer than everybody else because you end the same time, but you start a week sooner. So it could be that you really do make yourself maybe susceptible to some more injuries when you do start a week sooner. But hey, they started a week sooner in Ireland. KU started a week sooner too. They just started in the United States, and they don't seem that banged up. They're just not very good either.
They also suck, though. So
yes, but they also suck. So maybe that's something worth examining. I don't know. At the same time, I will say, and I tried to defend myself when people came at me for this earlier in the week. at no point did I say that was an excuse for this year's product, because with those injuries and this team's health notwithstanding, they had no reason blowing a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter in Waco. The coaches did that. And they were probably a little banged up at the time. I don't think they had Dylan Edwards, never had George Fitzpatrick, but injuries weren't the reason why they lost to Army or Arizona either. I mean, act like you care or have a little bit more energy and juice to you, and you win those games. Some people would say it was the Ireland hangover. I'm not going to give that excuse. It's possible. I don't know. That's more of a scientific thing that I really don't care to get into. But at some point, you're the ones that signed up for that game, so you have to figure it out. They didn't figure it out. So what I am saying is Oklahoma State is a terrible team. Even teams as terrible as Oklahoma State typically don't lose 18 Big 12 games in a row. They might. We'll see. We're about to find out. So I'm kind of, I guess what I'm saying is at some point they're going to maybe accidentally win a game just because they are due. Even the bad KU teams year after year before Lance Leipold got there accidentally beat teams. They accidentally beat Texas quite a bit, if I remember correctly. So even bad teams will accidentally beat some team because they're probably because that team doesn't take them serious enough, or they just happen to play out of their skis one night and it all comes together in a perfect crescendo. So you add in that Kansas State is probably one of the 2 or 3 most injured teams in the Big 12. I would say maybe it's Kansas State, Iowa State, and Arizona State. And then you add in the fact that Kansas State really, if you look at the worst teams on their schedule that they have played this year, and certainly Oklahoma State will qualify for that, that's when Kansas State's played their worst football this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think the simplest way to put it is that the non-con portion of the schedule, that blame needs to be shifted, and that's on the players for the mindset, the mentality. Like, they handled that like a soft football team, but then they came back, they galvanized themselves when conference play rebooted against UCF, and everything that's happened after that has been a combination of
Coaches and injuries.
the coaching and then the injuries, and in turn, like, when that's how you look at it, like, the program was not built to sustain the problems that they had once they got into conference play. And look, there's a pretty thin margin in the Big 12. Like, look at Arizona State right now.
Yeah, they could crumble the rest of the year.
Yeah, like, there's just, when you don't have guys, you're not going to be able to build enough depth in the Big 12 to sustain it. Like, there's a reason why Texas Tech knew they needed Baron Morton back to face K-State.
And they have the money to purchase depth.
Yeah, except they didn't at quarterback. Well, they had Will Hammond, and then he got hurt too. So, like, they were better off there than others, but their window's out. It's gone through the window now. So,
yep.
But now you look at where, like, that's why I think what you're pointing out, like, it doesn't excuse what happened to start the year. And I think a lot of the negativity stems from that more than anything, because look, they look like crap against North Dakota. They should have lost that game. Then they lost to Army. They lost to Arizona. And then if the team that K-State has been since conference play started again, I don't know that people are as upset. Now, look, you would not be in the conference title picture still, but also in an ideal world, if we're talking about this and where I think a lot of the negativity is held towards the decision makers, you're saying, why the heck did you take the game with Iowa State and play it in Ireland?
And why the heck did you maybe eliminate some of the spring ball practices
if
you were installing a little bit of a new offense because you had a new offensive coordinator and certainly a new defensive scheme because you were switching from the 3-3-5, 4-2-5, 3-3-5 to the 4-2-5. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. So I think it's a strange spot that they're in, and this season is going to be strange. So in turn, I'll ask you a couple of questions, and you may answer both of them, so I don't need to ask the second one.
I just want to say that tangent that I just went on to, all I am saying, that what I was alluding to is, like, I'm going to pick Kansas State to win. They have no business losing to Oklahoma State. But if there's a team in a spot that's kind of showed a history to, they were the ones that may be vulnerable to Oklahoma State getting lucky one time this year, to be quite honest.
Well, how important is it for K-State not to lose this game then? Like, is there any big picture effect that this could have for the program if K-State loses it, because I think that's where like people are pissed right now. There's no way around that.
Yeah,
But
but
it would go to another level if they
yeah.
lost this game. It's just people can feel that way, and you could have people that have been reasonable at this point that all of a sudden they hop on the, hey, get Chris Kleiman out of here wagon. Like, but I don't like real change can't come out of K-State losing this game, right? To that extent is what I'm asking.
If they the closest that they could get to it, I guess, is by losing this game. Like it would get, I think the vitriol, the anger, the frustration would get very, very, very unhealthy if they were to lose this game.
Yeah, from a just my perspective thing, this is a game that you shouldn't and can't lose if you're K-State. If you want to try to get people to, pull along with you into next season, you can't lose this game.
No,
And they're like, this is where, like, if I was a decision maker and I had the means to be a decision maker, I would make some pretty rash decisions if K-State didn't win a game like this. But that's I'm not in that position to do so.
I don't, and I don't know if that they will have the like the flexibility to to make anything significant. I'm talking like head coach. But you might still get some staffing changes. I think no matter what, I think those are coming.
I think they have to happen no matter what.
Yeah, I think those are coming no matter what. But things get a lot more serious if you lose a game of this this is not a, I wouldn't call this a must-win game. It's a can't-lose game.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what would happen if they were to lose to Oklahoma State in Stillwater. All I am saying is, like, you think folks are angry now. The level of nastiness and maybe the level of, like, how much, like, 'cause there is a point where it gets too hot. Like, it gets too hot to handle and maneuver and navigate.
And I mean, you lose this game, you're not winning in Salt Lake City next weekend, especially for a team in Utah that probably is still going to have an outside chance to make it to Arlington.
I don't think you're going to win that game no matter what.
Oh yeah, probably not. But you can't win in Stillwater against this team. You're not winning on the road in Salt Lake City, and then it doesn't matter at that point what you do against Colorado because you have to win 2 of these final 3 to even hit that like baseline of success in college football. Like, look, K-State's had an embarrassing season. But like you're a true embarrassment if you don't play for a bowl game in this day and age. And that's where K-State is on this thin lineup. So how impactful then is K-State's finish overall? So add in those last 2 games and then the bowl game attached if they make it to it.
All I would say is like things are like there's a lot of pissed off people now. That's part of the reason, maybe a lot of the reason why I got a lot of bow and arrows like flung at me this week for even entertaining the thought that injuries could be impacting this thing in any certain way. And I'm not mad at those people for doing that. They can feel the way that they feel. And I wasn't trying to excuse this coaching staff, but like, despite that, like it doesn't feel hot enough to where it's impossible to move forward with the coherent plan that maybe people can support anyways. Lose to Oklahoma State or lose to Colorado. And I think that changes things because you just alluded to it. I don't think it's like you suck or I shouldn't say it. I don't think it's a thing where a bowl game is that important, but I think because of the way Colorado looks now as well, like Colorado's playing just as bad as Oklahoma State, if we're being completely honest, that you also can't lose that game at home.
Yeah, look, I still think it's important for K-State to not drop down to that level of like you want a really bad year at K-State to be we went 6-6, made a bowl game. We went 7-6 this year. Like that's what you want bottoming out failure to look like at K-State. And that's still on the table. I think if it dips lower than that, then like you're going to have a lot more problems and the hole that you have to dig out of gets a little bit deeper. And you just don't want to be in that position right now because you can go around and look and, we know that there are other teams in the league that have had their share of bottoming out moments. Like, you could go and point to BYU stepped in the league and they went 5-7, but it's a little different for them. Like they were adjusting to playing in a conference now, and then they immediately went 7-2, 11-2, had a great season. And this year they're on that same path. You look at Texas Tech, like what was their down year that got Matt Wells fired? Well, they went 7-6 and they canned him. Joey McGuire's come in and they've won 8 games every year since he took over. So like you can't put yourself in that position where, because if K-State doesn't make a bowl game here, they are closer to being what Kansas has been over the last 4 years than what they are to Iowa State, or, if you want to throw like, Arizona State and the trajectory that they seem to be on. And look, it's shorter path for them right now, only 2 years in the league, but like you're not going to be considered in that category. And the benefit of the doubt will be gone next year. And I think it already is for K-State. Like K-State will not be a preseason top 25 team next year. So they are going to have to get off to a good start if you want to be in the thick of it. And like, this is a team next year that the window should still be open to being a contender for the Big 12 championship. Like Avery Johnson could come back. If he is back, you have to be in that game next season. And you're going to have to do a lot of special things. Whereas Texas Tech's going to start next year probably as like a preseason top 10 team. They can afford a couple of those losses and still be sitting pretty, or at least have a better perception. K-State doesn't have the advantage of a perception that's going to boost them anymore, because Chris Kleiman, in all honesty, has wasted a lot of golden opportunities the last 3 years.
Yeah, he's wasted all that capital. I mean, you've been picked basically number one. I know there wasn't any official rankings, but you're essentially been picked number 1 or number 2 in the Big 12 each of the last 3 years, and you're really didn't get close in either one. And there's nothing that can be defended about that. That's disappointing. You can't do that 3 years in a row, and you did. So next year is a prove-it year for him. And everyone's like, what are you talking about next year? Yes, like people that are trying to will this into existence, I have every expectation that Chris Kleiman will still be the head coach next season, and I don't think that's changing. I really don't.
Yeah.
But as you said, he's lost all that capital from a national perspective, or at least a Big 12 perspective, and who teams believe is carrying the league. They no longer will have trust in him to do that. But he's lost, and you said the benefit of the doubt. He lost the benefit of the doubt with the fans. I guarantee you, when the offseason starts cranking up and I go on KSO and I start to spill some nuggets about off-season workouts or spring ball, who's looking good behind the scenes, nobody's going to believe shit anymore. Let's be honest, because a lot of things that they were told this offseason about this team did not come to fruition.
Yeah, and look, I don't think it's harsh. I don't think that it's wrong. I think it's the correct opinion. I think that it's just the state of things that you're right. I expect him to be back next year. But
what I would say is things are still tenable or manageable right now in terms of like the chatter and the heat. You lose to Oklahoma State, and I wonder if things don't become a little untenable at some point.
Yeah, but what I would say is like people want it to be right now and this year, that it's in that spot where it's like, okay, you're like the faith in you's gone, like move on time is here. No, next year is the prove it year though. Like if K-State doesn't have a really strong season next year, there's no, like, again, this is not me. This is not a personal thing. This is not like an emotional thing. This is how K-State has to be operating, and a lot of Big 12 teams have to be operating now. If K-State does not win 8 or 9 regular season games next year, Chris Kleiman doesn't need to be the head coach beyond that. And I had this conversation with Scott Wildcat in the offseason on Bosco's Boys, where I think that Big 12 teams are going to have to be more aggressive than ever in how you're trying to pick your coaches, because like this is a league that outside of Texas Tech, and again, jury's still out on if they're going to be able to sustain this, the money they'll be able to sustain. Can you make it work every year? But like anybody could jump up there and take one of those spots in Arlington in any given season. We've already seen that through the first 2.5 years of a jumbled league. And you have to be maximizing your opportunities to get there. And so if you have coaches that go multiple years without doing it, then you probably need to go and just restart the clock and say, we got to try to find somebody that can do it for us. Chris Kleiman used to be able to do it. He proved it. He won the Big 12. Like, he was a great coach for K-State for a stretch there. But now, like, when you fail in 2023, it wasn't that hard, but it wasn't great. You fail in 2024. That was a legitimate failure with the way November went. And now 2025 has been an absolute disaster. Like 2026 cannot be a failure in a shortcoming season. And
Yeah.
so
There
it's just fans want something that is still a year away from being that type of season. But the pressure is definitely on. I think you have to close out strong for a lot of reasons, and if anything, just to make your fans feel at least a little bit more comfortable, even if they wanted change, to accept that, hey, it's not changing and maybe this can work out, because you don't want it to be like Oklahoma State this year. I guarantee Oklahoma State fans walked into this season and they knew it wasn't going to work. And my brother works in Tulsa, and he knows some Oklahoma State fans and season ticket members. And he was telling me this morning, he's like, yeah, guys were saying before the season they gave up their season tickets and they weren't buying them again until Gundy was gone. Like, they knew that it was over for Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State. And that's why, I think you want to close this thing out strong so people still have that support behind you. Now, K-State's going to have a little bit stronger than Oklahoma State because Gundy was on this decline for an extended period. It hasn't been that bad for K-State until now, but they really have to step up because it could look pretty gross next year.
And the levels are bad there. Like, obviously they went 0-9 in the Big 12 last year.
Yeah.
Probably going to go 0-9 again. So the levels of bad are very much different. What I would say is like I said, I expect Chris Kleiman to be back. But man, they've really backed themselves into a corner, as you said, because you just wasted two pretty good rosters, and to have just as good or better of a roster next year is going to be hard to pull off. And we're talking, and we're saying right now, they don't have the liberty or luxury of next year being a rebuild after failing essentially 3 years in a row. So there is a lot of heat and pressure on them to get this, off-season personnel roster right and good enough. And they don't have the built-in assumed advantages that the rosters of the past couple of years had. There's a real chance that next year's roster won't be as good.
Yeah, which means the coaching has to be a whole lot better, and it's been what's held them back in some games the last couple of years. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back with best bets, then get back to talking about K-State and Oklahoma State. Time now. Here is a look at what transpired the last time we were together for a preview show. A couple of 1 and 2 weeks. Bill Belichick decided to win a game finally, and then Cal gave themselves a little bit of a chance at the end, but threw a pick. So in the end, only our Big Ten teams came through for us. And you had to have felt really good about your under for sure the first 30 minutes of the game between K-State and Texas Tech, and then some scoring erupted in the second half, and that was nowhere close.
My Tech K-State under, I think that was the right side. That was kind of unlucky. And also, I don't think Arkansas was ever going to cover, but the way they lost to Mississippi State was bizarre.
Yeah. So here's what we got this week in college football. I'm taking Cincinnati -6 against Arizona because Arizona sucks. Texas Tech at home -24 against UCF because, look, Tech might have a little bit of a letdown game. UCF is not going to do anything on the road to threaten you. And the Tulsa Golden Hurricane are going to win a game for the first time since beating Oklahoma State as Oregon State comes to T-Town at noon on Saturday. So give me the Golden Hurricane because Oregon State is going through their whole mess this week of different things. They removed the interim head coach, so they are on their second interim head coach of the year. A lot of upheaval in that athletic department. This is the right time for Mr. Golf Guy to get another win for Tulsa.
I like that, man. Too bad that wasn't like a 2:30 game. You could shoot over there after the Cats.
Man, if it was a night game, I'd be going back to Tulsa with my brother, and we'd be catching a double feature on Saturday. I will say this. He was sitting around yesterday, and he called me, and he goes, well, I got nothing better to do tonight after I get off work. I think I'm going to go to the Tulsa Oral Roberts game. So he went and sat by himself at Tulsa ORU last night, and he called me this morning. He goes, It was a great game. 88-87, I think, was the final score. Do you remember Connor Dow, the kid at Oklahoma State last year that shot the ball like crap in Manhattan?
No, no, but
Fan Drew and I laughed at his numbers. My brother's like, yeah, he plays for Oral Roberts now. He had 22 last night. So I've got a little Tulsa connection there.
Love your Cincinnati pick too. I don't know that I hate your Tech pick. I just wouldn't have bet it. I don't think. I actually would look at the UCF first half line. Maybe that's something that I would maybe ponder. But I could see Tech pulling away in the second half and covering. So I don't think you're totally off in having that thought process. Virginia finally lost last week after flirting with disaster for about a month straight, right? Like they won 5 games and 3 of them were by overtime and another one was by 2. At some point, the air was going to go out of the Virginia balloon, and I believe now that it is out of the Virginia balloon, it could continue to deflate. Duke is actually coming off a loss to UConn, so I think it's actually a good time to tail the Blue Devils. Very strange year for Duke. They are barely a better record than K-State. They are 5-4, but they are an ACC title contender because 3 of their 4 losses are in the non-con.
They lose the right games.
They lost to Tulane, Illinois, and UConn, I believe. So strange season for the Blue Devils. Would not surprise me if they somehow can get into that ACC title game in Charlotte. If you're the ACC, you got to be trying to rig this against the Blue Devils, though, because that would be a bad look for you if so. But I'm going to back Duke anyway. Miami, look, I know that their angle to get into the ACC title game is the most unlikely. Like they need the most help. But the ACC continues to cannibalize itself in like 3 different ways for 2 or 3 weeks in a row now. So don't count out the Canes. NC State already got their upset when they upset Georgia Tech not long ago. So I think Miami pulls away, similar to how they did with Stanford a few weeks ago. I don't think NC State's a good football team. And in Texas, I don't love Texas, but they seem to be getting a little bit right. If you watch them the past few weeks, they're starting to look a little bit better. And for those that have watched Georgia all year, they are a tough team. I like when Kirby Smart described them. He's right. Hard to kill. With that being said, aside from the blowout win over Mississippi State, Georgia seems to just win by the skin of their teeth every week as well. So even if Georgia wins, I could see Texas cover.
We've gotten away from giving one from a K-State game this year because we've been recording on Thursdays now, and you don't get a ton of prop bets from the game. But if I had to ask you to pick a non-Jace Brown, Jerron Tibbs, Garrett Oakley touchdown scorer in the game on Saturday, somebody kind of off the wall that hasn't found the end zone too many times this year, who would you pick?
Yeah, you eliminated him from contention. At first, I was going to say Garrett Oakley because he is a really nice mismatch for the Wildcats in a lot of weeks. And I think especially in this week when there is a talent differential, I think Garrett Oakley is going to have a lot of matchups. So I would put it on Garrett Oakley. But you said not Garrett Oakley, not Jace Brown, not Jerron Tibbs. I hope you don't really have to run Avery Johnson a whole lot to beat Oklahoma State. So I think that would be one I might steer clear from. If you do it, if he scores multiple touchdowns on the ground, it's probably not a great sign, to be quite honest. I'll say Will Ancio because Matt Wells didn't mention him twice today, so I wonder if something's boiling there.
I excluded those guys because they catch the most of them typically. I was seeing who you might go with. Will Ancio is a fascinating one. Did you know Avery Johnson sits 2 away from tying Will Howard's record for career touchdown passes at K-State, 3 away from owning it himself? The 3 receivers with the most touchdown grabs thrown by Avery Johnson in his career: Garrett Oakley with 11, Jace Brown with 10, and Will Ancio with 4. Jerron Tibbs tied for 3rd with 3 already.
I could see him throw a 3 in Stillwater. Yeah. Because I don't know that you feel like you shouldn't have to feel like you have to run Avery a bunch against Oklahoma State, I wouldn't think. And do you have a run game anyway?
Yeah. Do you have like in your head, who are going to be the most random guys that have caught a touchdown pass from Avery Johnson in his career? Because he has, if you go and look, because I've got this ready to go, he has 5 guys that caught 1 touchdown pass from him in their careers.
Okay, so one of the ones is probably Will Swanson.
Will Swanson has 3.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. Braden Lofton have 1?
He's got 2.
Man. Okay. Sterling Lockett does not have 1.
Nope. Should have had 1 against Tulane
last
year.
Yep, he should have. Jace has a bunch. Tibbs has a bunch. Does Drum Bradley have 1 or 2?
Bradley's got 2 already.
Okay. I'm trying to think who would have played wide receiver last year. That's the bizarre thing. And then maybe someone that caught 1 in the Pop-Tarts Bowl would be a good answer because he started that game and threw some touchdowns.
The guys that have caught 1 touchdown only in their careers from Avery Johnson: Trayshawn Ward, Seth Porter, Jaden Jackson, Keegan Johnson, and Trey Spivey.
Those all, I mean, I should have got a lot of those. Yeah.
Trayshawn Ward's probably because that took the combination of backup quarterback and backup running back in the game together.
And he didn't play the Pop-Tarts Bowl, so that would have been during the season.
Yeah, I think that happened. That would have been either the TCU or the Houston game.
Because Trayshawn Ward, I believe, entered the portal before the bowl game.
Yeah. Seth Porter caught his first career touchdown pass from Avery.
I remember that touchdown last year. That was late in the season, too.
That was 2 years ago.
Oh, so
Jaden Jackson had the one against West Virginia last year.
He had a few deep ones. So was Seth Porter the bowl game then?
No, Seth Porter was against, I think that was against TCU in 2023.
See, I don't remember a lot of Avery's touchdown passes because I know he played like every other series against TCU, so a lot of it came then.
It's because 21 of his 46 have gone to 2 guys, and then the others have, he's had some go-tos in there. The bowl game touchdown pass catchers, DJ Giddens and Jace Brown were the ones that caught touchdowns in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. DJ
Giddens and Jace Brown. DJ Giddens had the long one right at the beginning.
Yeah. Yep, on 4th down. Yep. So just a little bit there because K-State is on the cusp of getting that knocked off. So
just like Colin Klein, his first game was that he called his offensive coordinator was the Texas Bowl against LSU. The Pop-Tarts Bowl was the first one for Connor Riley, I believe.
Yep. So, all right, K-State, Oklahoma State. You've already said you think the Cats win. So what's the dream scenario is pretty simple here. It's K-State goes up and just rips through them like they're supposed to.
Yeah, dream scenario, rip through them like they're supposed to, jump on them early and often, deflate their spirit, get their confidence completely eliminated if they have any left, and take care of business. And really, you can coast in the second half and you win this game like I'll say 38-7. That would be the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you take them lightly because they're 0-7 in the Big 12 or 0-6. Either way, they've lost 0-6. They've lost, so at least 15 straight Big 12 games. I think it's 16 because I think their last win was November 23rd, 2023 against BYU in overtime, if I remember correctly as well. When BYU wasn't really good that year, maybe, I don't know. And BYU almost beat them, almost upset them during Oklahoma State's Big 12 championship run, really, quite frankly. Anyway, so you take them lightly. You play as bad against Oklahoma State as you did against the other bad teams on your schedule, like Army, Arizona, and North Dakota. You just have kind of lost focus because the Texas Tech game eliminated you from Big 12 title contention. Then you had a week off to lose even more focus and not really give a crap. So you just kind of sleepwalk. Oklahoma State gets a little bit confident. To be honest, worst case scenario is you start slow because of all those things I just said. You let Oklahoma State get a little bit confident in a team that is probably desperate for some kind of success. Yes, Oklahoma State could probably tune out the season too, and maybe some of them did. But if you give them a half where they feel like they have some fight, they're like, well, fuck, freak. I'm going to go. We have a chance to win one game.
I
Let's go.
kind of look at it like this
They
team that already had 3
they got
games this year where they just kind of shut down and didn't pull themselves up. Like if they get knocked in the mouth to start this game, like there's no certainty here that K-State really gives too much of a fight back. And like maybe it's like that Arizona game where, the opponent is so bad that they're not going to pull away from you, but you're not doing anything that leads people to believe, oh, you're going to win this game. Like
yeah,
K-State made that a tie game against Arizona, and it never felt like they were going to win it because they didn't do anything to create the opportunities for themselves, at least offensively.
absolutely. And Oklahoma State's not. I don't think they're worse than Arizona. So you're never going to feel like you can't win. I don't think, but you can really create a scenario where you make Oklahoma State believe and they actually try to fight, because the difference in this game is when you've, like I'm talking about, you make the Cowboys feel confident, is they got nothing to lose. Kansas State still does. And then so you start to the what they say, your butt starts puckering up right when it gets a little bit pressure, and especially if you're in a bare knuckle fight with Oklahoma State. I think Kansas State is the one that starts puckering up, is the one with the most pressure on themselves, and not necessarily Oklahoma State. They're the home team. They want to win, not to be embarrassed. So I think if you let them get confident for a half, they'll put up a fight. So I think that first half is really important. What I will say is there is a few times this year where teams let Oklahoma State hang around a little bit. Now, all 3 of those teams ended up pulling away, but all 3 at Baylor, Houston, and KU really didn't have a comfortable lead at halftime.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and KU still, they pulled away from Oklahoma State, even though I thought Oklahoma State might be in the fight. But if you remember how that first half ended, Oklahoma State gave a lot of momentum back to KU, and they never relinquished it from that point. I think K-State, I mean, you get the best case scenario. This team needs to be scoring in the 40s in this game.
I don't know there's enough. I think you're right, but I wonder how many possessions are in a game of
Yeah.
this kind of contest.
We'll see. Also, if you're K-State, just, kind of the bare minimum, the most
Although,
points Oklahoma State has scored against a team this year is 27. So, like, I mean, you don't have to do a whole lot for K-State. You have to give 4 good drives, and you should beat this team. Like, it's very low bar to beat Oklahoma State.
yeah, it is, and I know their defense has really been brutal. Oklahoma State's. I mean, you give up 38 to KU, 49 to Cincinnati, 42 to Texas Tech, 39 to Houston, 41 to Arizona, 45 to Baylor, 69 to Oregon. Like, there's been very few games where you just haven't got blasted by and give up 35 plus points. I get that, but like, and I guess we've seen some progress from the Kansas State offense, but like they've had to like really lean on like explosives, right, to score. Like, have they really had a day where they can just run for 200 yards?
No, I don't. They had one against Cincinnati
UCF?
where Rodney Fields had a really good
No, it's
day.
about K-State.
Oh, yeah. I
UCF?
mean, and look, you can't even like totally different scenario because you actually had a running back that was capable of doing it there. I don't think K-State has it now.
Yeah, so
So,
to your point, you can get in the 40s maybe for Kansas State because you can get explosives, because I don't think Kansas State could really
I mean, I think K-State needs to just lean on the passing game here. Like just
probably. I
like
mean,
this
my
to me,
point
this
was,
needs to look like what they did against West Virginia last year when they went on the road.
yeah,
West Virginia was a bad team with a horrible pass defense. You don't need to run Avery Johnson. You've got enough guys that can get it done. Like let him throw the ball and just be relentless attacking Oklahoma State.
yeah. My point was like you could get into a game where there's a lot of possessions, because like I don't know that Kansas State really has the ground game to possess the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All right. Official prediction for you. How's it end up looking on Saturday?
I don't think I'm going to pick Kansas State to win, but I don't know if people are going to be thrilled coming out of it or feel comfortable about it. I think it could be kind of ugly. Like I don't know that Kansas State's can really. I don't expect their best performance, and I think there's a world where this game's a little bit tighter than people want it to be. I got it like 34-24.
Okay, yeah, that wouldn't make me feel good. I'm going the opposite way. I think you do get something that at least is a little bit of fun because of how bad Oklahoma State is, and like I said, I think you let Avery Johnson just go to work with his pass catchers. 49-17 is my pick.
Yeah, I'd like that. I don't think this Kansas State team's good enough to do that right now. I really don't.
They may not be. All right. We'll get out of here. For Derek Young, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening to the KSO show. Back again on Friday, me and Drew, and then we'll be live after the game Saturday against Oklahoma State as the Cats go down to Stillwater.